The Louis Vuitton capucines sat on the bench beside me, structured, flawless, and hand-stitched in a rare shade of storm blue leather. It cost $39,800, more than the used Honda my cousin Tasha drove to work every day. She kept staring at the bag like it offended her. "Cute purse," she finally said, her mouth curling into a smile that wasn't a smile. "You get it from that Chinatown vendor who sells those buy one, get three fakes?" The Christmas brunch table burst into laughter. My uncle slapped his knee, my aunt shook her head like I disappointed her again. Even my brother Moses snorted and muttered, "Lord, here we go." "Come on, Tasha," my mother said, gently scolding, but her eyes were sparkling with amusement. "Be nice." Then to me, "Sweetheart, you really should stop wasting money on knockoffs. It's embarrassing for the family. People notice." I sliced into my omelet, keeping my expression neutral. Silence was power. Grandpa always taught me that. "Selena," continued Tasha, emboldened, "this whole lifestyle you're trying to push, the designer clothes, the rooftop restaurants on your Instagram, the random helicopter tour last month, girl, the lie is too loud. You work at a clinic making what, $58,000 a year? Please." My mother chimed in, her voice dipped in concerned sweetness. "It's getting worrisome, honey. Pretending to be rich is not healthy. You're almost 30. You need to come back to reality." I reached for my water glass. "I'm not pretending." "Then explain it," Moses said, leaning back smugly. "Because unless you got a secret millionaire sugar daddy, and trust me, nobody believes that, the math is not mathing." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table. A screen notification lit up. "Confirmation, sale of 52% controlling shares of Darlington Biomed Holdings. Scheduled for Tuesday, 9 a.m. Current private market valuation, $207 million. I locked the screen and set the phone face down. Tasha laughed mockingly. "See, even her notifications are fake rich. I can't." Before I continue this story, if you're watching this right now, pause and ask yourself, what happens when an underestimated person finally speaks? Stay with me. And make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story, because what happens next will shock you. Back to the story. What none of them knew, what nobody at this table had even bothered to wonder, was that Darlington Biomed, the pharmaceutical research company my grandfather founded 40 years ago, was valued at over $200 million, and I owned 52% of it. Grandpa left it to me. Not to my mother, not to Moses, not to Tasha, not to any of the loud Darlington relatives who loved the family name but despised family responsibility. To me, Selena Ortiz, the quiet one, the overlooked one, the one who actually listened to his stories, understood his research, and cared about his life's work. When he died 8 years ago, he wrote one line in his will that changed the entire direction of my life. To Selena, who sees what others ignore. My family was furious. They weren't furious because they wanted to run the company. They barely understood what the company even did. They were furious because Grandpa chose someone they'd spent their entire lives dismissing. Someone who wasn't loud like them. Someone who didn't brag. Someone who didn't look rich. They hated that the legacy skipped them. For 8 years, I stayed quiet. I worked calmly at my clinic job because helping people mattered to me. And every year, the dividends from my shares, roughly $3.6 million after taxes, landed quietly in the private account tied to the foundation Grandpa created for me. For 8 years, I used that money to live comfortably, to invest, to travel, to learn, to grow the company through board influence while staying out of the spotlight. For 8 years, my family believed I was broke, and I let them, because silence protects peace and ignorance exposes people. But today they went too far. "Selena," my mother said again, her tone turning patronizing, "you need to stop pretending. It's delusional. That helicopter ride was probably a Groupon special. And this bag, sweetheart, please. A real capucines? That's almost $40,000. $39,800, I corrected quietly. "Oh, Jesus," Tasha muttered. "Here she goes." My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time the preview was small but clear. Reminder, sale of controlling shares will trigger mandatory buyouts from minority shareholders. Your mother, 5%, Moses, 3%, and Tasha, 2%, will be compensated automatically at full market value. Estimated payouts, 10.3M, 6.18M, and 4.12M. I took a bite of fruit. Calm. Controlled. So sweet. So Moses, said Moses, arms folded, when are you finally going to get serious with your life? Stop this fantasy. I swallowed my bite, lifted my head, and looked at all of them. My family who loved appearances more than truth, who respected noise more than quiet brilliance. Can I ask you all something? I said softly. Oh Lord, Tasha groaned. Here comes the monologue. I folded my napkin slowly, deliberately, a grandpa habit, a sign that something important was about to be studied. For 8 years, I began, you've all called me delusional, irresponsible, and unstable. For 8 years, you mocked everything I touched, my clothes, my trips, my life. You've all been so certain that I was pretending to be rich, while you were unknowingly receiving dividend checks from a company worth over $200 million. My mother frowned. What are you talking about? I turned the phone around just long enough for them to see the headline. Darlington Biomed Holdings, $207 million valuation. Tasha blinked. What is that? That, I said calmly, is the company I control. The table went silent. Completely silent. The kind of silence that tastes like shock, like disbelief, like realization hitting bone deep. Wait, my mother whispered. Selima, what do you mean control? I leaned back slightly, still calm, still in full command. I mean, I said, I own the majority shares, 52%. Grandpa left them to me, and the sale of those shares happens Tuesday morning unless I cancel it. Moses' fork dropped. Tasha stopped breathing. My mother covered her mouth. And when the sale goes through, every minority shareholder gets bought out automatically at market value. Moses finally managed to speak. I'm a shareholder? 3%. Tasha clutched her chest. I have shares? Since when? 8 years. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Selena, sweetheart, is this real? I nodded once, and the room spun for them. But for me, this was the first moment in 8 years that felt perfectly still. My mother was the first to recover. She picked up her napkin with its shaky fingers, pressing it to her lips like she was trying to hold her whole world together with that thin piece of fabric. Selena, she said slowly, this isn't funny. I'm not joking. Moses leaned forward, his eyes narrowed in a way I'd seen 1,000 times before. The way he looked at me when he thought I was being dramatic, irrational, childish. Okay, he said, let's say for a second that what you're saying is true. Why would Grandpa leave you control of a biotech company worth what, 200 whatever million? You're a nurse practitioner. You're not a CEO. You're not qualified. There it was, the word that had followed me my whole life. Not qualified, not enough, not believable. I said, Tasha, those deposits you get every quarter from Darlington Estate Distribution Services, how much are they? She blinked. What? The deposits, I repeated calmly, the ones labeled Darlington Estate Distribution Services that hit your account 4 times a year. How much? She shifted in her seat. I don't know, a few thousand? I never checked exactly. $103,000, I said, every quarter, roughly $412,000 a year. That's your 3%. She mouthed open. No, that can't be right. Moses, I continued, turning to him, Yours are labeled Darlington Beneficiary Holdings. He swallowed. Yeah, I thought that was from Grandma's old life insurance or something. You get about $154,000 every quarter, roughly $616,000 a year. That's your 3%. I turned to my mother. And you, Mom, Darlington Family Administrative Trust. She whispered, don't. You receive $257,000 every quarter. That's just over $1 million a year for the last 8 years, 5%. The only sound in the room was the clink of forks sliding off a plate and hitting the floor. My uncle stopped chewing. My aunt set down her necklace. Even the kids playing in the living room went strangely quiet, as if they could feel the shift through the walls. You're lying, Tasha finally breathed. You have to be. There's no way. I would have known. $1 million a year? Come on. Did you ever read the statements that came with the deposits? I asked. She went silent. Mom, I asked, did you? Her eyes went glassy. I filed them with the rest of the mail. I thought it was just leftover estate paperwork, something the attorney managed. It wasn't left over. It was your shareholder documentation. 8 years of annual reports, proxy votes, and dividend statements. You signed the original paperwork yourself. All of you did. Moses shook his head like he could physically rattle the truth out of his ears. If we were shareholders in the company that big, why didn't anyone tell us? I stared at him. I did, I said softly. The night of the will reading, remember? The memory moved through the room like a ghost. 8 years earlier, all of us in that same house, different decorations, same tension. The attorney reading my grandpa's will while my mother clutched the tissue and Moses kept checking his watch. When they heard that controlling interest went to me, the room exploded. You must have pressured him, Moses accused. You took advantage of a sick old man, Tasha shouted. He was confused, my mother cried. He didn't know what he was signing. Nobody heard me when I tried to explain. Nobody listened when the attorney confirmed that my grandpa had undergone 3 separate mental evaluations that year, all clearing him of any cognitive decline. They walked out of that room convinced a mistake had been made, but the paperwork went through. The shares were transferred, the trust was established, and every quarter since then, the money appeared in their accounts. Quiet, consistent, generous. But they never looked closely enough to understand it. You dismissed it, I said now, bringing them back to the present. You dismissed him, his company, his decisions, and me. My mother's voice came out like sandpaper. If what you're saying is true, why are you selling? Why would you walk away from that kind of power? Why now? I set my fork down carefully. Because this part mattered. Because I am tired. All of them watched me like I just said something in another language. I am tired, I repeated, of being told I'm delusional because I carry a bag I can easily afford. Tired of being mocked for vacations I pay for in full. Tired of hearing that I live above my means from people who have been unknowingly living off my grandfather's company for almost a decade. I pointed gently at Tasha. You called my life a lie. I turned to Moses. You said I wasn't qualified, that I wasn't serious, that I needed to come back to reality. Then I looked at my mother. You let them say it. You added your own comments. You told your friends your daughter was having a quarter-life crisis because she liked nice things. You assumed my stability was a performance. I exhaled slowly. Meanwhile, I spent 8 years quietly attending board meetings, reviewing R&D proposals, blocking bad mergers, and advocating for ethical trials. I've helped grow Darlington Biomed from a $120 million company to a $207 million one. I've signed off on expansions that kept hundreds of people employed. I've stopped 2 dangerous shortcuts that would have risked patient safety. I've done the work. You just never saw it because it didn't fit the story you wrote for me. Moses tried to recover ground. Even if that's true, selling your shares out of what? Hurt? Ego? That's reckless. Grandpa wouldn't want that. I gave a small, bitter smile. That's the funny thing. Grandpa anticipated this conversation. The last time we spoke, he told me, use what I'm giving you to protect yourself as much as you protect the company. Don't let them shrink you. I stood, smoothing my dress. From the corner of my eye, I could see my uncle staring, my aunt clutching her necklace, cousins leaning in as if watching a courtroom drama unfold. I'm not selling out of ego, I said quietly. I'm selling because I've spent 8 years being called crazy for living a life I can easily afford. I am selling because every time I did something nice for myself, my own family treated it like a symptom of instability instead of the fruit of responsibility. I picked up my phone and bag. And here's what none of you are understanding. When the sale goes through Tuesday morning, you don't lose everything. You cash out. You get your millions. You walk away with more money than you've ever seen in your life without ever having read a single page of your shareholder reports. My mother's voice broke. Selena, please, you can't just decide to sell the company. I already did. The legal team has been negotiating with the private equity group for months. The only thing left is my final confirmation by Monday at midnight. After that, it's done. Monday, Moses repeated faintly. That's in 2 days. 48 hours. Actually, 44 now.
So you're just going to, what, punish us? Cash out and leave? That's what this is? Revenge? I looked at her. Really looked. At the flaring nostrils, the wide eyes, the panic hiding behind anger. For 8 years, I said softly, you thought I was beneath you. For 8 years, you got free money from a company you never respected while telling me to stop acting rich. This isn't revenge, Tasha. This is me choosing peace. My mother stood up abruptly. Selena, you're being impulsive. At least let us talk to the board or the attorney or whoever. You can't just walk out on Christmas and blow up the company. I nodded. You're right. I can't just walk out on Christmas. I slipped my arm through the handle of my storm blue capuchons. That's why I'm giving you a chance, I said. You have until Monday at midnight. Between now and then, you can call the attorney, you can call the board, you can read your own shareholder documentation for the first time in 8 years. You can confirm every word I've said. I paused at the doorway. And if after all that you still think I'm pretending, I shrugged. Then you'll enjoy your buyout deposits when they land. You won't have to pretend anything. You'll be rich for real. My mother took a step toward me. Selena, please don't leave like this. This isn't about today. This is about 8 years of being treated like I was broken for living a life you didn't understand. I walked out of the dining room, past the family photos on the wall, birthdays, graduations, weddings, where I'd always been on the edge of the frame. My car waited outside. Not a leased Hyundai, not a borrowed sedan, a fully paid-for Porsche taken in dark graphites. The kind Moses once joked, I must have rented for Instagram. I got in, closed the door, and for the first time that day, let out the breath I'd been holding since Tasha joked about Chinatown. As I pulled out of the driveway, my phone started ringing. Mom, then Moses, then Tasha. I let them all go to voicemail. Back at my apartment, a glass high-rise overlooking the city skyline, I poured myself a glass of wine I'd been saving. Not the supermarket stuff they assumed I drank, but a 2014 Domaine La Flave Montrachet I'd bought at auction for $1,400. I sank into my couch, the city lights reflecting off the windows. My phone buzzed. 1 voicemail, 2, 3. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then finally pressed play. Mom's voice came first, brittle and raw. "Selena, sweetheart, I called the attorney. He confirmed everything. The shares, the trust, the dividends, all of it. I've been receiving over $1 million a year, and I never asked why. I just assumed it was something your uncle set up. I never imagined it was your grandfather's company or that you were the one steering it. I'm ashamed. I spent 8 years worrying about a daughter I thought was lost when she was actually holding all of us together. Please don't sign anything yet. Please call me. I want to understand, for real this time." The next message was Moses. "Selena, I talked to the CFO. I tracked down the reports. I saw your name on everything. Your signature, your votes. You stopped that acquisition with Helix Corp 2 years ago. If that had gone through, we would have been buried in debt. You saved the company. I treated you like a child who didn't know what she was doing while you were literally protecting our inheritance. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. Just don't walk away yet. Please." The last one was Tasha. There was a long pause at the start of her message. When she finally spoke, her voice was small in a way I'd never heard before. "Nat?" She slipped into the nickname she hadn't used for me since we were kids. I don't even know where to start. "I checked my bank statements like you said. I did the math. You're right. Those deposits, they're more than I've made in my job in some years, and I never once asked where they came from. I just swiped my card and complained about my life. I called you fake while living off something you were fighting to grow. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If you never forgive me, I'd get it. But I'm asking you to give us a chance to at least apologize in person." The message ended. Outside, the city glowed, oblivious, indifferent, beautiful. I finished my glass of wine and set it down. The sell email from the legal team sat in my inbox, waiting for one click. Confirm. One decision, and it would all be over. For 8 years, I'd protected my grandfather's legacy and my family's financial future from the shadows. For 8 years, I let them think whatever made them comfortable. Now, for the first time, they were the ones who had to sit with discomfort. Sit with the truth. Sit with the idea that the person they underestimated most might be the one holding all the power. I turned off my phone, lay back on the couch, and closed my eyes. They had until Monday at midnight. I didn't know yet what I was going to do, but for the first time in a long time, I knew one thing for sure. Whatever decision I made next would be on my terms, not theirs. By Sunday morning, I'd almost convinced myself not to answer the door. I knew they would come. People always run hardest towards the things they almost lose. At 7:12 a.m., the intercom buzzed. "Ms. Ortiz?" The security guard said. "Your family is here." My family?" "Yes, ma'am. 3 of them. Your mother, a man who says he's your brother, and a cousin." They've been downstairs since 6:30. I closed my eyes briefly. Of course they had. Send them up, I said. A few minutes later, there was a knock. I opened the door to see all three of them standing in the hallway. My mother clutching a folder and a carton of coffee, Moses holding a stack of papers, Tasha balancing a box from the bakery I loved. They looked smaller somehow. Not physically, just less certain of themselves. We brought breakfast, Tasha said quietly. From that place on 8th you like, and the cinnamon rolls you always order. We also brought these, Moses added, lifting the stack of papers. 8 years of annual reports, every board summary, dividend statements. I read every page last night. My mother lifted the folder with trembling hands. And this is something we drafted. Just hear us out. Please. I stepped aside. Come in. They filled into the living room, setting coffee and pastries on the table, like peace offerings. Nobody sat until I did. It was a small thing, but I noticed. How much sleep did you get? I asked. None, Moses admitted. Maybe an hour, Mom said. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw your name on those documents. Tasha was twisting a napkin in her hands. I didn't sleep because I kept replaying every time I called you fake. It sounds so stupid now. I thought I was the one being real. I let them sit in that for a moment. Then I nodded at the folder in my mother's lap. What's that? She swallowed. This is a proposal. A new shareholder agreement. We spoke with the family attorney and he helped us draft it. Moses slid it across the table toward me. In short, he said, we want you to stay. Not just as a silent majority shareholder, as the face, as the leader, as what you already are, the person making the smartest decisions in the room. I flipped the folder open. The first clause hit me immediately.
Effective immediately, the majority shareholder, Ms. Selena Ortiz, will be appointed Chair and Chief Executive Officer of Darlington Biomed Holdings, with full operational authority and direct oversight over strategic decision-making. I blanked. You want me to be CEO? My mother nodded, her eyes glassy again. We don't want you to hide anymore. The board knows there's a phantom hand behind their best decisions. The industry suspects someone sharp is steering the company. It's time they know it's you. Moses pointed to another paragraph. You've already been doing half the job from the shadows. This formalizes it, gives you the authority that matches the responsibility you already carry. And between your shares, Mom's, mine, and Tasha's, we control 62% of the company. We can outvote anyone who tries to block it. I studied the page, the words blurring slightly. For years, I'd been the ghost in the machine, signing off, suggesting, blocking, reshaping, but never stepping into the spotlight. It had been safer that way, less messy, less exposed. Why now? I asked quietly. Why is it only after you realized how much this is worth that you suddenly see me? Tasha shook her head quickly. It's not just the money. Okay, it started with the money, I'm not going to lie. But reading those reports, seeing your notes, the way you voted, Selena, you're good. Like, really good. I thought you were playing dress up with your life while I was being practical. Turns out, I was the one sleepwalking. My mother wiped at her face. I kept telling people my daughter was just a nurse practitioner, as if that wasn't already an achievement. I never once said my daughter chairs the most important company in our entire family line, because I didn't know you were doing that. I didn't bother to know. That's on me. Moses nodded. I've spent years lecturing you about being realistic when you were the only one actually reading the fine print. I don't want my pride to be the reason we lose you or the company Grandpa built. I looked from one face to the other. What if I still decide to sell? I asked. My mother inhaled sharply. Then we will deal with it, she said quietly. You have every right. You've earned that decision. We will walk away with more money than we deserve and spend the rest of our lives knowing our arrogance pushed you out. Silence stretched out between us. Finally, I closed the folder and set it down. I need to make a call. I went to my bedroom, shut the door, and dialed the number that had been at the bottom of every legal email for years. Good morning. This is Angela Ruiz, General Counsel for Darlington Biomed. Came the familiar voice. Angela, it's Selena. Naturally, she said. I've been expecting your call. Are we confirming Tuesday's sale? I looked out the window at the city waking up below. Cars moving, sunlight catching on glass, steam rising from rooftops. No, I said. We're canceling it. I'm keeping my shares. There was a small exhale on the other end of the line, like someone who had been holding her breath for days. The board will be relieved, Angela said. There's something else you should know, by the way. When word got out that you might sell, it triggered a quiet frenzy. We received 3 unsolicited acquisition inquiries, valuations between $260 million and $330 million. I blanked. 330? Yes. Your refusal to rubber stamp that Helix Core merger and your insistence on funding the autoimmune line, those decisions signal to the market that someone with sense was at the wheel. You may think you've been invisible, but the numbers gave you away. I let that sit for a moment. So what happens now? Now, Angela said, you stop hiding. I've seen your work, Selena. You're not just some placeholder heir. You're the reason this company is as strong as it is. The board will back you if you decide to formalize your leadership. As counsel, so will I. Good, I said softly, because that's exactly what I'm about to do. When I stepped back into the living room, 3 pairs of eyes locked onto me. Well, Moses asked. I'm keeping the shares, I said, and I'm taking the CEO position. My mother slapped a hand over her mouth, half relief, half fear. Tasha exhaled so hard she almost dropped her coffee. But, I added, I'm doing it on my terms. I sat down, folding my hands in my lap. First, I said, there will be no more jokes about me pretending to be rich. No more comments about delusions, fantasies, or mental instability, because I buy something you don't understand. You don't have to like my choices, but you will respect that I can afford them. Agreed, Moses said immediately. Completely. I said, second, I'm not giving up the clinic. The work I do there matters to me. I will divide my time between Darlington Biomed and my patients. I will hire the best COO money can buy, and we will structure things so the company doesn't depend on me being in the office 80 hours a week. I refuse to become a ghost behind a desk just because I have a corner office. My mother nodded. If that's what you want, we'll support it. I said, third, I am done performing wealth or hiding it. I'll drive my car, carry my bags, travel where I want, and post whatever I feel like posting without being treated like I'm unstable. If you see me on a rooftop in Dubai, your first thought will not be, she's lying. It will be, she worked for that. Understood? Tasha wiped at her face. Understood, she whispered. And lastly, I said, next Christmas, it's here. I'm hosting, I'm hiring a chef, we're not doing the usual chaos. If I'm going to keep this family together and keep this company afloat, I at least get to upgrade the food. For the first time that morning, they laughed, really laughed. Not the sharp, mocking laughter from before, something softer, less defensive. Tasha stood up and hugged me first. Quick, tight, then longer when I didn't pull away. Moses followed, clapping my shoulder like he was finally seeing me as an equal, not a little sister to lecture. My mother lingered in the doorway a moment, then crossed the room and held me like she hadn't since I was 12. That afternoon, I drafted 2 emails. The first was to Angela and the legal team, formally canceling the sale and accepting the CEO role. The second was to the board. From Selena Ortiz, to Darlington Biomed Board of Directors. Subject: Transition of Leadership and Governance. For the past 8 years, I have exercised my grandfather, Raphael Darlington's controlling interests from behind the scenes. I have blocked acquisitions that would have harmed our long-term stability, championed projects that are now our most promising lines, and upheld the ethical standards he built this company on. He believed in building things that last. So do I. Selena Ortiz, Chair and CEO of Darlington Biomed Holdings. The replies came fast. About time. We've been hoping you'd do this. Welcome to the front of the room. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, my phone buzzed again. Tasha.
I'm standing outside Louis Vuitton, she said when I answered, on Michigan Avenue. I want to buy a real bag, not because I need to prove anything, but because I want something I earned. Will you help me pick one? You don't need a Capucines to be worthy, I said. I know, but I'd like my sister, the one who actually understands value, to help me choose something that fits who I'm becoming, not who I've been pretending to be. I smiled in spite of myself. Go inside. Ask for Mateo. Tell him you're my cousin. He'll take care of you. There was a pause. Nat, she added softly, thank you for not selling, for not giving up on us, for being who you are, even when we were too blind or too proud to see it. After we hung up, I walked into the kitchen. The storm blue Capucines sat on the counter, catching the last gold light of the day. For years, my life had been dismissed as fake. The wine, the trips, the apartment, the car, the clothes. All labeled pretend simply because they didn't fit the script my family had written for me. The truth was simple. I had never been pretending. I'd been building, quietly, deliberately, relentlessly. I didn't need their recognition to be successful. I'd already proven that to myself 1,000 times. But having them finally see me, really see me, not as the girl acting rich, but as the woman who held the keys to their legacy, that was worth more than any buyout offer. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't burning everything down. It's holding up a mirror and showing people exactly what they almost lost, and then choosing, with full power and clear eyes, to let them stay in your life on your terms. The bag on my counter was real. So was the company. So was the peace I felt. For the first time in 8 years, my family and my future were aligned with a simple truth. I had never been playing rich. I'd been the one writing the checks. And that was the moment I finally understood something I wish I had learned years ago. You don't have to shout to be powerful. You don't have to prove yourself to people who refuse to see you. Sometimes the most life-changing thing you can do is simply step into who you truly are. Quietly, boldly, unapologetically. And if someone chooses to underestimate you, let them. Their disbelief is not your burden. Your success is not their permission slip. Your truth doesn't need their validation to be real. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been dismissed, doubted, mocked, or called delusional for dreaming bigger than the box they tried to put you in, then this moment right here is your reminder. You don't need anyone's approval to rise. just the courage to stop shrinking. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Like this video if the message hit home. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful real-life stories like this. Share this video with someone who needs this reminder. And drop a comment below telling me the lesson that stood out to you the most, or a moment in your own life where you proved someone wrong simply by becoming who you are meant to be. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And here on True Voices Revealed, we honor every chapter, even the ones the world tries to ignore. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story.